Hello and welcome to the latest video from Epiphany Astrology. My name is Vicky and today I am going to be talking about Mercury retrograde. And this is a kind of timely video because we have actually just entered a Mercury retrograde period. And this current Mercury retrograde is going to be lasting from July 18th, 2025 to August 10th, 2025. So as far as Mercury retrograde cycles go, this occurs once about every 3 or 4 months, which is about roughly 3 to 4 times a year. And these Mercury retrograde periods usually last about 3 weeks. So Mercury is known as the planet of communication. And it's perhaps the most well-known or perhaps notorious of the retrograde planets. In astrology, Mercury is all about the energy of sending and receiving information. When Mercury is direct, the ways in which we transmit and share information tend to just keep humming right along with no issues. However, when Mercury goes retrograde, things can sometimes seem to get just a little bit derailed. So Mercury retrograde has a reputation for causing disruptions in our daily lives. During Mercury retrograde periods, challenges may arise in the areas of communication, technology, and travel. So Mercury retrograde can cause misunderstandings and miscommunications, communication breakdowns, delays of various kinds, technology glitches, and travel disruptions. During these periods, we may experience things like emails getting lost, messages being misinterpreted, and perhaps important details being overlooked. This could show up as glitches in the devices we use for information transmissions, like computers or cell phones or any other type of technology. So technology and technological devices are prone to malfunction, perhaps computers crashing or phones acting up in some ways beyond the average. We can face delays in travel plans or perhaps cancellations or unexpected changes, and we might have to change our itineraries. So you can see why Mercury retrograde may have come to have a bad reputation. However, Mercury retrograde periods can be a great time for reflection, review, and introspection. However, they may not be the best time to start something new. In fact, if you've recently started something new, it may appear like that project is slowing down or perhaps even grinding to a halt during a Mercury retrograde. Even though Mercury retrograde is never a good time to start something new, it perhaps can be the perfect opportunity to reevaluate and refine whatever thinking processes and communications are going into the projects that you're working on, so that when Mercury once again goes direct, your project can then pick up steam where it left off and blaze ahead quicker and more efficiently than it did even before the retrograde occurred. So once again, Mercury retrograde periods are good times to review, reflect, and perhaps reconsider some of the decisions you may have made. This period encourages us to slow down, review our plans, double check our communications and our information, and it also is perhaps asking us to be patient. By slowing down and paying closer attention to details, you can avoid potential pitfalls and make the most of this period. But these forced timeouts can also be a hidden blessing in disguise if you do utilize them as review periods. You may actually discover something that you might have missed if you didn't slow down to review and to reflect. You may actually find that you are drawn to being more reflective and introspective during these retrograde periods. So while Mercury retrograde can be challenging, it also does offer valuable opportunities for reflection and perhaps improvement on the things that we are working on. It may offer opportunities for growth and improved self-expression and a deeper understanding of your own thought processes. Mercury's message is this: it's time to rethink the situation that you may be involved in so that you can see it more clearly, gain a better perspective. And the good news is that Mercury retrograde periods are perfect for the retrospection and thinking that can help and us to reform our opinions, revise our ideas, and perhaps reconnect the dots that may have drifted apart. So now, after I've looked at Mercury retrograde periods as transits, now I'm going to examine Mercury retrograde as a placement in someone's natal chart. Around 18% of people are born with a natal Mercury retrograde. And as the planet of thinking, of intellect, and information, whenever it's retrograde, it's perceived as operating in a more internally focused manner. So people with Mercury retrograde in their birth chart tend to have a mind that's more internally focused. It's an indication of a mind that turns inward and suggests a person who thinks more independently, imaginatively, and innovatively. It can perhaps lead to a tendency to maybe overthink things or second guess one's decisions. However, this can also foster a strong capacity for analysis, problem solving, and self-reflection. Those with Mercury retrograde also absorb thoughts and ideas through osmosis rather than through careful, detailed study. So these people might appear to not be as comfortable with fast-paced learning situations, but they are excellent at digesting the facts slowly and then reintroducing them to others in a more imaginative form. They may have a stronger right brain influence in their way of thinking and may actually be very creative, artistic, and intuitive. From an evolutionary astrology perspective, a retrograde Mercury perhaps suggests some type of past life karma related to communication, learning, and intellectual pursuits. In previous lifetimes, an individual with a retrograde Mercury may have encountered challenges in expressing themselves effectively, or perhaps difficulties in processing information. Their past life experiences may have included situations where their communication was hindered or misunderstood in some way. This miscommunication could have been related to them there being a writer, a teacher, or messenger whose words were not understood or heard. Alternatively, they may have been a writer or artist who struggle to express their creative ideas fully. They may have been criticized or overlooked for their work. Additionally, when someone has a Mercury retrograde in their natal chart, there may be a need for them to learn what is actually most important for them to take in. What, because they may have experienced an overload of information or learning in ways that was not compatible for them, and they may have took in too much information that they were not able to process in a way that was helpful to them. So in this lifetime, the soul may be looking to tune out any extra or excess noise that might be coming in at them through communication and learning. However, it might be somewhat difficult for these people in our society today because they may be asked to learn in ways that are not most effective for them. The ways that they communicate may not be the same way as is average or is taught in schools today. So the Mercury retrograde person can really shine when they are able to understand and personalize the information that they are taking in, whether through communication or through the things that they are learning. This retrograde planet encourages them to develop clear and compassionate communication skills in this lifetime. So the learning process for these people is definitely more right brain than left brain. They tend to absorb the essence of the information rather than the details. Creative outlets that require nonverbal communication, such as music and painting, are excellent means of expression for individuals with a natal Mercury retrograde. In fact, many musical geniuses actually have Mercury retrograde in their natal charts. So, Mercury retrograde people, evolutionarily speaking, are beginning the process of relearning to rely upon and trust their own intuition as the source of information and knowledge that they are seeking.